Welcome back. Stephen Harper took aim at the economic dangers posed by his rivals in this campaign today on the eve of what the NDP says is an economic announcement tomorrow. Here's how the Conservative leader frames the choice.
Given that we have many challenges in the world, the fall of oil prices, the instability in Chinese markets, the debt crisis in Europe, still slower growth than we like in the United States, do you want to stay on this plan, or do you want to move to a plan that involves runaway spending, runaway deficits, runaway taxes, as other countries have done? That's what both Justin Trudeau's Liberals and Thomas Mulcair's NDP represent. Those paths would be disastrous, and we believe Canadians want to stick on a plan that's got us leading the world so far, and we'll continue that going forward.
And of course, it's the day after Justin Trudeau was christened a political Care Bear for declaring the economy should grow from the heart outwards.
We know that you need to grow the economy by strengthening the middle class and, putting more taxes on the wealthiest people and giving breaks to the middle class and those hoping to join it isn't just about redistribution. It's about actually stimulating and growing the economy so that everyone can benefit. Job creators and profitable businesses do much better when the middle class has money in their pockets to spend, to save, to invest, and a level of confidence.
Okay, so what's with all this class warfare on the campaign trail, specifically the war for middle-class votes? Munir Sheikh is an economist and former Harper-appointed chief statistician with the Government of Canada. Well, now you're with University of Ottawa?
With the University of Calgary School of Public Policy.
Good. Oh, that's a good one. Okay.
Yes.
Let me get your thoughts on this. Everyone wants the middle-class vote. Is there a government way to stimulate that? Where do you think these parties should be going if they're trying to make the middle class work better?
Well, let me share with you the key conclusions of the paper that I did with Philip Cross for the University of Calgary.
Right.
Our view was one that it really is very hard to have one definition of the middle class. Everybody has their own definition based on income, consumption, wealth, God knows what.
Right.
But I think the key conclusion that we came out with is that the middle class, take any group of people, and in that group you'll find people who are actually on the way to moving up, some are moving down, and some are going to stay where they are.
Right.
So broadly speaking, a third and a third and a third. So the middle class actually, regardless of the way you look at it, is a moving target, and it's very hard to really find the people you need to help. So then we asked the question from a policy perspective, what is it that one needs to nail down so we can actually focus policies on that? And we found that people who are hurting, in whatever way you want to define it, are people who are not able to compete in the new world, which requires more and more skills. So our focus was, let's target our policies in ensuring that our education system works well, that our training and retraining programs work well. We know that the market would not deliver the right amount of training in any economy. So there's a role for government here to strengthen training and retraining. And that's where I thought, policy should be focused. Improve the skill levels if you want to compete in the world.
So don't help the middle class, help the lower middle class or even low-income earners.
Anybody who actually has need for improving their skill levels, regardless of what level they are at.
So if he's using, say the Prime Minister is using these tax instruments like boosting tax-free savings accounts and splitting income, does that do any good for the middle class?
Well, I think the analysis that at least I'm aware of is that income splitting, tax-free saving accounts, those have a disproportionately larger benefit for people in the higher income groups. Of course, some benefit does go to people in the middle class, but it's a question of relativities. And so relatively speaking, people who are higher income get more benefit out of these programs.
I mean, I look at like Tom Mulcair's plan to have childcare spaces open up, and childcare tends to operate on, having used it many years ago, but it tends to go 9 to 6 or 8 to 6 or early in the morning drop off. It doesn't help someone who's, say, an overnight server in a late night cafe or something who needs childcare at 2 o'clock in the morning. I mean, does that Is that just something, a little perk for the upper middle class, or is it something that you could change and make that kind of a policy more equitable for people who might need it that beyond just 9 to 6 or 8 to 6?
Let me share with you something that we heard when I was doing this report for the Ontario government for people on social assistance.
Right.
Nothing to do with high income, low income, middle income. It's people who are on welfare. A lot of the people told us that the only reason they cannot go to work is because there's no child care available.
Right.
So again, if you have a program which is targeted properly and really looks after the needs of people who otherwise would not be able to work, they should be helped by that kind of a program. I am not totally aware of all the details of the proposals out there on child care, but many people may have a need for child care, and the question is, how do you actually best deliver that?
So if you give them, Stephen Harper, I think said today, $6,000 more in your pockets today under conservative government than before the conservative government, does that really change anything for a middle-class family?
Let's look at the universal child care program.
Yeah.
There's a word universal in it, which means it goes to everybody, whether you're rich, poor, or really super rich. Most of that money, or at least half of that money, goes to people who have no need for childcare. So it really is a straight check from the government of Canada to somebody's pocket and basically saying, go do whatever you want to do with it.
Yeah.
You can spend it on buying beer.
Well, we've heard that line before.
Of course, I've heard it too. The fact it is universal, not targeted to any income group, means that everybody gets it, and the fact that there's no condition attached to it, whether you actually spend the money on children, it's a free lunch for anybody, basically.
So the targeted's better.
Targeted based on the needs of the people, would get to the issue.
Final question, I wouldn't mind a quick thought from you on this. There's a lot of talk about deficit avoidance out there. We got to keep the budget in balance. Now we're hearing the Liberals sort of muse a little bit about, well, we're probably in deficit now. We have to figure out a plan, how long we're going to stay in deficit before we're out, and have a look at the books. How inherently evil are deficits to run when the economy is doing a bit of a crash of sorts?
Well, let me tell you what I taught my master's economics class the other day. After the Great Depression, there is such a big body of literature which says, if you really are intelligent and want to avoid what happened in the Depression, you should be using fiscal policy to stabilize the economy. Not to always be running budget deficits, good time or bad time, but you run budget deficits in bad times, then avoid them in good times. If we take that lesson from the Depression, this is the time to be running budget deficits. The Prime Minister said every time you run a budget deficit, you become like Greece. Mm-hmm. I mean, look at many other countries in the world which during bad economic times ran budget deficits. He himself ran budget deficits in the past many years.
Right.
We didn't become a Greece during the last period from 2009 on because we accumulated more than $150 billion of debt. Right. That stabilized the economy. Uh-huh. So let's just be consistent whether or not you're going to use fiscal policy in bad economic times. He did it. I would do it. In fact, I think there's a need right now to be running budget deficits. And in fact, let me pose to you a simple proposition. There are people out there in the economy who are saving money. The question really is, who should be borrowing that money? Because the money is going to be borrowed by somebody. And the choices are, given that the business sector doesn't want to invest at this time, the choices are, you either let the government borrow it and say spend it on infrastructure, or you're going to let the household to borrow the money and build up household debt. That is what is happening. I would say, common sense would tell me you're better off if the government borrows it and spends it on useful things rather than households borrow it to buy homes.
Dr. Sheikh, thanks for coming in. Appreciate that.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.